Hack Your IQ, Smarter Thinking Made Simple. Introduction, Your Brain's Hidden Power. Imagine you're holding a smartphone, but you only ever use it for calls and texts, completely unaware it can navigate cities, translate languages, or hold a library of books. That's exactly how most of us treat our brains. We use only a fraction of their incredible power, sticking to familiar mental routines and believing our thinking capacity is fixed from birth. This book is your guide to discovering and activating those hidden features, to upgrading the most powerful device you will ever own, the one between your ears. We're going to move past the old, limiting idea that intelligence is a static number you're stuck with, a score that decides your fate. Instead, we'll embrace a thrilling truth. Your ability to think, learn, and solve problems is a skill you can develop, just like learning to cook or play a sport. Every chapter in this book is a new app you can install, a fresh hack to make your thinking sharper, faster, and more creative. Get ready to unlock potential you didn't know you had and to see the world in a new, more brilliant light. Think about a time you learned to ride a bike. At first, it felt impossible, wobbly, and scary. But with practice, balance became automatic, and the wind in your face felt like freedom. Learning to think smarter follows the same beautiful path. It starts with a few conscious efforts that soon transform into effortless, powerful habits that change everything. This journey isn't about cramming more facts into your head or becoming a human encyclopedia. It's about rewiring your process, about learning how to learn, how to connect ideas, and how to see solutions that were always right in front of you. We'll break down complex ideas into simple, actionable steps you can start using today, whether you're a student, a professional, a creator, or someone who's just curious about improving. Your brain is waiting for this adventure, eager to stretch beyond its comfort zone and prove to you what it can truly do. Let's turn the page and take the first step together. Chapter 1: The IQ Myth. You are not a number, and this chapter is where we prove it forever. The story of IQ begins over a century ago, designed for a specific purpose that has little to do with your potential today. Imagine a ruler trying to measure the beauty of a sunset. It's the wrong tool for the job, and the same is true for a single test trying to capture the vast landscape of your mind. IQ scores measure a very specific type of logical and pattern-based thinking, but they completely miss creativity, empathy, grit, curiosity, and your ability to learn new skills. Society has placed this number on a pedestal, making many people feel locked into a category of smart or not smart, which is a tragedy because it holds brilliant thinkers back. We are going to dismantle this myth piece by piece, freeing you from its limits and opening the door to a world of growth. Think of this chapter as your declaration of intellectual independence, where you take back control of your own story. Let me tell you about Sam, who believed his average IQ score meant he'd never be more than a middle-of-the-road accountant. He avoided challenging projects, sure he wasn't cut out for complex problem-solving, and watched his more confident colleagues advance. One day, his boss handed him a messy, open-ended project that didn't have a clear textbook solution, and Sam, with no other option, decided to just try. He asked simple questions, broke the problem into tiny parts, and allowed himself to look foolish as he explored ideas. To his shock, not only did he solve the problem, but his solution was more innovative than anything his department had seen before. That project wasn't solved by a high IQ. It was solved by perseverance, a new approach, and the courage to try. Sam's story is your story because we all have moments where we doubt our raw mental horsepower. This book will show you that horsepower is less important than knowing how to drive. The fixed mindset is the voice that says, "I'm not a math person," or "I'm just not creative," and it's the biggest dream killer you will ever face. Every time you accept that voice as truth, you build a wall around your potential, a wall that keeps new skills and experiences out. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is the exciting belief that your abilities are like clay, ready to be shaped and expanded with effort and the right strategies. It's the understanding that struggle isn't a sign of failure but the feeling of your brain forming new connections, getting stronger. We are going to actively cultivate this growth mindset throughout our journey, turning every challenge into a game and every mistake into a valuable lesson. Your first and most important hack is to switch from asking, "Am I smart enough?" to asking, "How can I figure this out?" This simple shift in question changes your entire world. Scientists used to believe the adult brain was hardwired and fixed, but groundbreaking research in neuroplasticity has revealed the stunning truth. Your brain is constantly changing. Every time you learn a new word, a new route to work, or a new way to think about a problem, you are literally reshaping your brain's physical structure. The gray matter can thicken, neural connections can strengthen or weaken, and your brain's networks rewire themselves based on what you do and how you think. This isn't just hopeful thinking, it's biological fact, proven by modern neuroscience using advanced brain scans. Your brain is an ever-evolving organ, designed to adapt and grow in response to challenge, which means you are never stuck. You are always in a state of becoming, always capable of building a smarter, faster, more agile mind starting right now. So, what does real-world intelligence look like if it's not an IQ score? It looks like adaptability, the skill to thrive in new and unexpected situations where there's no rulebook. It looks like resourcefulness, the ability to use whatever tools and knowledge you have at hand to build a solution, even if it's imperfect. It looks like learning agility, the speed and ease with which you can grasp a new concept and apply it to your work or life. This practical intelligence is what helps people navigate complex social situations, build successful businesses from scratch, or invent life-changing technologies. It's not about what you know at this very second. It's about how quickly and effectively you can figure out what you need to know. This is the intelligence we are going to train, the kind that makes a tangible difference in your daily life and opens doors you didn't see before. Your mission now is to conduct a simple audit of your own mindset. For the next week, carry a small notebook or use your phone's notes app and listen carefully to your internal dialogue. Every time you hear yourself say or think something like, "I can't do this," "I'm bad at this," or "This is just how I am," write it down. Then right next to it, rewrite that thought with a growth mindset twist. Change, "I can't understand this report," to "I haven't learned how to understand this report yet." Swap "I'm terrible with names" for "I'm going to practice remembering names using a new technique." This exercise isn't about positive thinking. It's about truthful, strategic thinking that acknowledges your power to change. By the end of the week, you'll have a powerful log of your mental barriers and the keys you've created to unlock them, setting the stage for every hack that follows. Chapter 2. Your brain is a muscle. Close your eyes and picture your favorite athlete in training, maybe a runner on a track, methodically putting in miles, or a swimmer doing lap after lap in the pool. They aren't just exercising their body, they are having a detailed conversation with it, teaching their muscles and lungs to perform better under pressure. Your brain deserves the same respect and the same deliberate training. It is not a passive organ but an active, dynamic muscle that strengthens with use and atrophies with neglect. Just as you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without working up to it, you can't expect peak mental performance without consistent, challenging workouts for your mind. This chapter is your personal training plan, designed not to exhaust you, but to energize you, to show you how to flex your cognitive powers and feel them grow stronger each day. We are moving from simply using our brains to training them with purpose. Consider Leo, a retired teacher who felt his world slowly shrinking. He'd do the crossword, watch the news, and feel like his thoughts were moving through molasses, stuck in the same old patterns. He missed the sharpness he felt when he was constantly preparing new lessons and engaging with curious students. On a whim, he signed up for a beginner's online course in a language he knew nothing about, Mandarin. The first week was pure chaos, strange sounds and symbols that made no sense, and his first instinct was to quit. But he committed to just 15 minutes a day, using a simple app, sounding out words like a child. After a month, he realized he could greet his neighbor, count to 20, and recognize a handful of characters, and the mental fog he'd complained about had lifted. Learning something profoundly new had woken his brain up, proving to him that the muscle was still there, just waiting for a new weight to lift. So, what does a good brain workout look like? It starts with consistent novelty, deliberately seeking out experiences that break your normal routine and force you to pay attention. This could be as simple as taking a completely new route to work, writing with your non-dominant hand, or trying to cook a recipe from a cuisine you've never tasted before. The core principle is desirable difficulty, which means finding a task that is just outside your current comfort zone. Not so easy it's boring, not so hard it's overwhelming. This sweet spot is where the magic happens, where your neurons fire in new patterns and create stronger, more resilient connections. Think of it as adding a little more weight to the barbell each week. The struggle is the signal that growth is occurring, and you should welcome it. Just like physical muscles, your brain needs proper fuel and rest to grow stronger from this workout. The fuel comes from nutrient-rich foods like leafy greens, berries, nuts, and fatty fish, which provide the building blocks for healthy brain cells. Hydration is equally critical, as even mild dehydration can significantly slow down your processing speed and focus, making your mental workout feel much harder than it is. Then comes the most surprising part of the equation: rest. Deep sleep is not downtime for your brain. It's when the cleanup crew comes in, clearing out waste products, and when your memories from the day are sorted and solidified. Without quality sleep, your brain can't cement the new skills you're trying to learn, so prioritizing 7 to 8 hours is non-negotiable for smart thinking. Let's build your first weekly brain training regimen, a simple plan you can start today. Day 1 is for pattern breaking. Do one routine task in a novel way, like organizing your desk blindfolded or describing your day aloud in extreme detail. Day 2 is for focused learning. Spend 20 minutes on a platform like Duolingo, Khan Academy, or a podcast about a totally unfamiliar topic. Day 3 is for memory. Try to memorize a short poem or a list of 15 random items using the story method we'll learn later. Day 4 is for spatial reasoning. Work on a jigsaw puzzle or a 3D building game. Day 5 is for speed. Time yourself doing a familiar task, like clearing your email inbox, and try to beat your time without sacrificing accuracy. The weekend is for synthesis and rest. Reflect on what you learned and get plenty of sleep. This varied routine ensures you're working all the different muscle groups of your mind. The most beautiful result of this consistent training won't just be a better memory or faster learning. It will be a deep-seated confidence in your own ability to figure things out. You'll start to encounter problems, a glitchy software at work, a flat tire on a trip, a complicated family dilemma, and instead of panic, you'll feel a calm curiosity. Your trained mind will automatically begin to assess the situation, break it down, recall similar patterns, and generate possible solutions. This is mental fitness in action, the result of showing up for your brain every day and proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. The feeling of looking at a challenge and thinking, "I can work with this," is more valuable than any test score. Let's move forward, knowing every small effort is sculpting a more resilient and capable you. Chapter 3. Curiosity is your superpower. Remember the last time a child asked you why, over and over, each answer spawning a new, deeper question until you reach the limits of your own knowledge. That relentless drive to understand is not childish. It's the purest engine of genius, and somewhere along the path to adulthood, many of us learn to shut it off. We accept surface-level explanations, we stop questioning how things work, and we trade wonder for efficiency, getting through the day without truly engaging with the world. This chapter is about reawakening that superpower, about strategically cultivating your curiosity until it becomes a default setting, a lens that makes everything more interesting and full of potential. Curiosity is the spark that ignites learning, the force that pushes you to explore the unknown, and the antidote to boredom and stagnation. We are going to practice being comfortably confused, to fall in love with questions again, and to let that drive lead us to smarter thinking. Maya worked as a data analyst, and her job involved looking at the same types of spreadsheets every day, a routine that had become mind-numbingly dull. One Tuesday, she noticed a tiny, recurring anomaly in the numbers, a small dip in a metric every other Thursday that no report ever commented on. Instead of ignoring it as a glitch, she felt a flicker of curiosity. "I wonder why that happens," she thought. She asked a colleague, who shrugged. She mentioned it to her boss, who said it wasn't important. But the question nagged at her. In her spare minutes, she started digging, cross-referencing other data sets, and eventually traced the dip to a bi-weekly supply truck arrival that slowed down a specific team's workflow. Her simple why uncovered an inefficiency that, when fixed, saved the company thousands. That small spark of curiosity didn't just make her work interesting again, it made her invaluable. So how do we fan that spark into a steady flame when our daily lives are filled with busyness and distraction? The first step is to become a deliberate observer, to actively notice the details in your environment that you usually filter out. On your next commute, don't just zone out. Ask yourself questions. Why is this street designed this way? What is that building's history? How does the traffic light system actually work? The goal isn't to find the right answer immediately, but to practice the act of questioning. Treat the world around you as a living museum full of fascinating exhibits waiting for your inquiry. This practice shifts your brain from passive consumption to active investigation, a state that is inherently more engaging and intellectually stimulating. Curiosity thrives on diverse inputs, so we must deliberately break out of our information diets. Most of us read the same news sources, follow the same social media accounts, and talk to the same people, creating an echo chamber where nothing truly new enters our minds. Your mission is to introduce information vegetables, content that is good for you but outside your usual taste. Subscribe to a magazine on a topic you know nothing about, like astronomy or pottery. Listen to a podcast hosted by someone with a worldview opposite to yours, not to argue, but to understand their why. Strike up a conversation with the person at the coffee shop who has a unique style or is reading an interesting book. Each new piece of information is a potential connection point, a new thread that your curious mind can weave into your existing knowledge tapestry. Let's put this into action with a simple, powerful exercise called the 5 whys. When you encounter any problem, statement, or even a piece of good news, ask why about it. Then take the answer and ask why again. Repeat this process at least 5 times. For example, you feel tired in the afternoon. Why? Because you feel sluggish after lunch. Why? Because you eat a heavy carb meal. Why? Because it's quick and convenient. Why? Because you don't prepare other options. Why? Because your mornings are rushed. This line of questioning, sparked by simple curiosity, moves you from a surface symptom, "I'm tired," to a potential root cause, "my morning routine." This tool transforms curiosity from a vague feeling into a practical problem-solving drill, digging deeper into reality with each question. The ultimate reward of a curious life is that learning stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like an adventure. The things you need to learn for work, for a new hobby, or for personal growth cease to be obstacles and become puzzles you're excited to solve. This mindset makes you a magnet for interesting people and ideas, because your genuine interest is infectious and attractive. You'll find that your memory improves dramatically, not because you're trying harder to remember, but because you're more emotionally engaged with the information. Curiosity is the hacker's gateway into any field, any skill, any complex problem, because it grants you the patience and the drive to stick with something until you understand it. Embrace the questions, welcome the confusion, and watch as your world expands in the most exciting ways. Chapter 4: The Focus Switch. In a world that constantly buzzes, pings, and dings for your attention, the ability to focus deeply is not just a skill, it's a superpower. Think of your attention as a powerful spotlight. Most people let that spotlight flicker wildly across dozens of targets every minute, illuminating nothing fully and leaving them exhausted. True focus is the act of directing that steady, brilliant beam onto a single task, burning away distraction and creating a state of clarity and flow where time seems to melt away. This chapter is your training manual for controlling that spotlight, for finding the focus switch in your mind and learning how to flip it on command. We are going to move from being reactive victims of distraction to becoming the calm, intentional directors of our own attention, reclaiming hours of productive, satisfying work. Take Alex, a graphic designer who spent his days in a state of constant interruption, email notifications, Slack messages, his phone vibrating with social media updates. He felt busy all the time but produced very little quality work, and his creativity felt completely drained. He decided to run an experiment for one workday. He turned off all non-essential notifications, put his phone in a drawer, and used a simple timer to work in 25-minute blocks with a 5-minute break in between. The first block was agony. His mind itched to check his phone. But by the third block, something shifted. He became absorbed in a design layout, playing with shapes and colors, and when the timer rang, he was almost annoyed to stop. In that one day, he completed a project that had been languishing for weeks and felt a creative high he hadn't experienced in years. He discovered that focus wasn't something he lacked. It was something his environment was constantly stealing. To build this skill, we first need to understand and tame the two main enemies of focus: external distractions and internal chatter. External distractions are the easy ones to spot: your phone, open browser tabs, noisy coworkers, the clutter on your desk. Internal chatter is the tricky one: the endless stream of thoughts about your to-do list, a recent argument, what you'll have for dinner, or a feeling of anxiety. The hack is to address the external first to create space to manage the internal. Start by physically designing a focus zone. This means clearing your workspace of everything unrelated to your single task, closing all computer windows except the one you need, and putting your phone on silent and out of sight. This simple act of preparation signals to your brain, it's time to get serious. Now for the internal chatter, we use a brilliant tool called the brain dump. Before you begin a focus session, take exactly 3 minutes and a blank piece of paper. Set a timer and write down every single thought swirling in your head, tasks, worries, ideas, reminders, with no judgment or order. The goal is not to organize but to evacuate. Seeing these thoughts on paper does two things. It proves to your brain that you won't forget them, so it can stop reminding you, and it clears the mental RAM, freeing up processing power for the task at hand. After the 3 minutes, you can glance at the list, pick the 1 or 2 most urgent items to handle later, and then set the list aside, physically turning it face down. Your mind is now remarkably clearer and ready to engage. The next level is mastering the rhythm of work itself through a technique known as the Pomodoro technique, which Alex used instinctively. The rule is simple. You work with total focus for 25 minutes, then take a mandatory 5-minute break where you step away from your workspace. After 4 of these cycles, you take a longer 15-30-minute break. This rhythm works because it makes focus a short-term game. Anyone can concentrate for 25 minutes. It also respects your brain's need for regular rest to maintain peak performance. During the 5-minute breaks, do not check email or social media. Instead, stand up, stretch, look out a window, or get a glass of water. These breaks allow the subconscious part of your mind to process what you just worked on, often leading to insights when you return. With consistent practice, you'll start to recognize the feeling of flow, that state of effortless concentration where you are fully immersed in performing at your best. You'll be able to summon deeper focus faster, and you'll guard your focus time fiercely because you'll know its true value. The most exciting outcome is that you'll get more done in less time but with higher quality, and you'll end your day feeling accomplished instead of scattered. You'll have reclaimed your most precious resource, your attention. This control is the foundation for every other thinking hack, because a scattered mind cannot learn, create, or solve problems deeply. Now that your spotlight is under your control, we can aim it at the skills that truly matter. Chapter 5, Speed Learning 101. What if you could learn new things at double your current speed, absorbing books, courses, and skills not in months, but in weeks? This isn't about skimming or cutting corners. It's about learning how to learn efficiently, hacking the process so you spend your time and mental energy on what truly matters. Think of your brain as a sophisticated library. Most people try to stock it by painstakingly writing out each book by hand, while speed learners know how to use a high-speed scanner and a smart filing system. This chapter will hand you that scanner, teaching you the core principles of rapid skill acquisition and knowledge integration. We are going to break the slow, plodding habits of traditional learning and replace them with dynamic, active strategies that make you a learning machine, hungry for the next challenge. Imagine Ria, who needed to become proficient in a new project management software for a promotion opportunity at her construction firm. The software manual was 300 pages of dense technical jargon, and the training videos were slow and boring. Overwhelmed, she decided to change her approach. Instead of starting at page 1, she found a 5-minute quick start video on the software's website. Then she immediately opened the program and tried to set up a dummy project for her last completed job. She got stuck immediately, of course, but instead of giving up, she searched for the specific answer to that one stuck point: how to assign a subcontractor to a task. She solved it, moved to the next step, got stuck again, and searched again. In 2 afternoons of this messy, hands-on struggle, she knew the software better than colleagues who had passively watched all the training. She learned by doing, not by watching. The first rule of speed learning is to shift from passive absorption to active engagement. Our brains are not designed to remember information we simply hear or read. We remember what we do, what we struggle with, and what we teach. This means the moment you encounter a new concept, you must immediately do something with it. If you're reading a book, stop after a section and write a 1-sentence summary in your own words in the margin. If you're watching a tutorial, pause the video and try the step yourself before the instructor shows you the answer. If you're learning a language, use the new word in a silly sentence aloud right away. This active recall forces your brain to process the information at a deeper level, moving it from short-term memory toward long-term storage. Next, we embrace the 80-20 principle of learning. In most skills, 20% of the knowledge or practice leads to 80% of the results. Your job as a speed learner is to ruthlessly identify and master that crucial 20% first. Before diving into any new subject, spend 30 minutes researching its core fundamentals. What do all the experts agree are the absolute basics you must know? For learning guitar, it's a few basic chords and strumming patterns, not music theory. For public speaking, it's structuring a simple talk and practicing delivery, not the history of rhetoric. By focusing on these high-leverage fundamentals, you achieve a level of basic competence incredibly fast, which is motivating and gives you a platform for deeper exploration later. Don't try to drink the ocean. Learn to sip the most nourishing water. A powerful tool for this is the Feynman technique, named after the Nobel-winning physicist who was a master of simplicity. The technique has 4 steps. First, choose a concept you want to learn. Second, explain it in the simplest possible language, as if teaching it to a complete beginner or a child. Third, identify the gaps in your explanation, the parts where you had to use jargon or where your logic felt fuzzy. Fourth, go back to your source material, study those gaps, and simplify your explanation further. This process of forced simplification reveals what you truly understand and what you've only memorized. It transforms complex information into clear, sturdy mental models that are easy to recall and apply, which is the essence of true understanding, not just temporary knowledge. Finally, we must structure our learning in spaced intervals, a method called spaced repetition. Cramming for 8 hours straight is far less effective than studying for 1 hour a day over 8 days. Your brain needs time between sessions to consolidate memories, to strengthen the neural pathways you've formed. Use this to your advantage. After an active learning session, Plan a short review for the next day, then another review 3 days later, then a week later. This doesn't need to be long. 5 to 10 minutes of quizzing yourself or revisiting your summaries is enough. This schedule exploits your brain's natural forgetting curve, reinforcing the information just as you're about to forget it, which dramatically boosts long-term retention. With these strategies, active engagement, the 80-20 rule, the Feynman technique, and spaced repetition, you have a complete toolkit. You are no longer at the mercy of slow, tedious learning methods. You are in the driver's seat, accelerating toward mastery. Chapter 6. Memory Palace Magic. Imagine being able to walk through a building in your mind and find, in specific rooms, every fact, name, number, or idea you've ever wanted to remember, as clearly as if it were sitting on a table. This is the ancient technique of the memory palace, used by Greek orators and modern memory champions alike, and it feels less like memorization and more like a thrilling mental adventure. This chapter will guide you in constructing your own palace, turning the dry task of rote memorization into a vivid, imaginative, and surprisingly fun exercise. We are going to tap into your brain's innate, powerful ability to remember locations and images, using them as hooks for abstract information. Forget struggling to recall. You're about to learn how to simply walk through your mind and see what you need. Consider Ben, a medical student drowning in the endless lists of bones, nerves, and chemical pathways he had to memorize. Flashcards were piling up, and he felt like he was forgetting as fast as he was learning. Desperate, he decided to try building a memory palace using his childhood home. He mentally placed the bones of the skull along the path from his front door to the kitchen. The frontal bone was the doormat. The parietal bones were the 2 framed pictures in the hallway. The occipital bone was the coat hook he'd always bump his head on. He made each image absurd and interactive. For the occipital bone, he pictured the hook shaped like the bone itself, and he felt a comical bump as he walked past it. Within a week, he could mentally take that walk and recall the entire list in perfect order, effortlessly. He had turned anxiety into a game, and the information stuck. To build your first palace, you need a familiar location with a clear path. Start with your own home, as it's deeply imprinted in your memory. Close your eyes and mentally walk from your front door through the rooms in a logical, consistent order. Maybe entryway, living room, kitchen, hallway, bedroom, bathroom. This is the journey or locus of your palace. Now, select specific, stable spots along this journey where you will place your memories. These are your stations: the bright red armchair in the living room, the peculiar crack in the kitchen tiles, the lamp on the bedside table. You only need about 5 to 10 stations to start. The key is that you can visualize each spot vividly and walk past them in the exact same order every time. This journey is the scaffold upon which you'll hang your memories. Now for the magic, turning boring information into unforgettable images. The human brain is terrible at remembering abstract words or numbers, but phenomenal at remembering vivid, unusual, sensory-rich pictures. This is the principle of visualization. To remember a grocery list item like milk, don't just picture a carton. Imagine a giant, talking cow in your entryway, wearing a milkman's hat and juggling 3 overflowing bottles, with milk sloshing all over your floor. To remember a person's name, Mr. Green, imagine him dressed head to toe in neon green, mowing your living room carpet with a tiny lawnmower. The more absurd, funny, or shocking the image, the more sticky it will be. Engage all your senses. Imagine the sound of the cow mooing, the smell of the fresh-cut grass, the cold feeling of the spilled milk. You are creating a memorable movie, not a still photograph. Let's practice with a practical list, remembering the first 5 U.S. presidents in order. Your palace is your home. At Station 1, the doormat, picture a Washington monument made of cherries, George Washington. At Station 2, the coat rack, imagine a giant ADAMS apple wearing a coat, John Adams. At Station 3, the sofa, see Thomas Jefferson wearing a chef's hat, frying an egg and saying, "I declare this delicious." Declaration of Independence. At Station 4, the TV, James Madison is arguing loudly with the TV show Married. With children, he helped write the Federalist Papers, which argued for the Constitution. At Station 5, the coffee table, James Monroe is driving a Monroe-priced car, Monroe Doctrine, through a map on the table. Take a mental walk now. Can you see them? This silly, vivid walk is your new memory. The true power of this technique unfolds with practice. You can create multiple palaces for different areas of your life: your office for work facts, your gym for fitness routines, your childhood school for historical timelines. As you get better, you can place more detailed information at each station. A single bookshelf in your mental library could hold an entire chapter of a textbook, with each book on the shelf representing a key point. This method liberates you from the fear of forgetting, turning memory into a creative and confident act. You are no longer a passive receiver of information hopping at sticks. You are an active architect, building a world in your mind where every piece of knowledge has a permanent, unforgettable home. Chapter 7: The Art of Connecting Dots. The most brilliant breakthroughs in history didn't come from knowing one thing deeply, but from seeing a connection between two seemingly unrelated things. Steve Jobs famously called this connecting the dots, and it's the secret engine of creativity, innovation, and smart problem solving. This chapter is about training your brain to become a master dot connector, to look at the scattered information in your world and start drawing lines between them to reveal surprising new pictures. We are moving from linear, single-track thinking to associative, web-like thinking, where every new piece of knowledge becomes a potential link to another. Your brain is a vast network, and we're going to learn how to consciously activate more of its pathways, turning you into an idea-generating machine. Let's look at Sarah, an engineer tasked with making a home thermostat more energy efficient. She was stuck on improving the existing algorithm until she took a break and visited her sister, who was feeding her newborn. She watched the baby fuss, the mother gently rock and soothe it, and the baby eventually calm down and fall asleep. In a flash, Sarah made a connection. What if the thermostat didn't just react to temperature like a simple switch, but could learn the household's patterns and soothe the home gradually, like a parent, avoiding sudden energy-wasting adjustments? This insight, born from connecting infant care to engineering, led her team to develop a predictive, learning-based algorithm that became their product's best-selling feature. Her breakthrough didn't happen at her desk. It happened when she allowed knowledge from one domain to cross-pollinate with another. The first step to connecting dots is to intentionally build a diverse knowledge base, to collect interesting dots from many different fields. This is why reading widely outside your profession, engaging in varied hobbies, and talking to people from different walks of life is not a distraction. It's essential fuel for smart thinking. Start a commonplace book or a digital note file where you jot down interesting ideas, quotes, facts, and observations from anything you encounter, with no immediate purpose. A fascinating fact about ant colonies, a clever line from a movie, a principle from ancient philosophy, a new tech trend, collect them all. This repository becomes your personal dot collection, the raw material from which your brain can later make unexpected links. Next, we practice a skill called forced association. Take two random items from your environment or your commonplace book, say, a bicycle and a library. Now, spend 2 minutes brainstorming all the possible connections between them. Maybe a library could lend bicycles for exploring local history. Maybe a bicycle-powered generator could charge e-readers at the library. Maybe the structure of a library's catalog system could organize a community bike share program. The goal isn't to find a perfect, practical idea, though you might. It's to stretch your associative muscles. Do this exercise daily with different pairs. This trains your mind to bypass its habitual pathways and forge new ones, making it much more likely you'll spontaneously connect relevant dots when facing a real-world problem. To apply this to a specific challenge, use a tool called mind mapping. Start with your central problem or topic written in the middle of a blank page. Then draw branches out for every aspect, fact, or related idea you can think of without judging their relevance. Then look at the outer branches and start asking, how is this like? Questions. How is this marketing problem like a beehive? How is this team conflict like a river with blockages? How is this product design like a pinecone? By forcing metaphors from nature, other industries, or art, you pull in dots from other fields and spark analogical thinking. These analogies often reveal the core structure of a problem and suggest elegant solutions that pure linear analysis would never uncover. The ultimate habit of a dot connector is reflective journaling, specifically about your own experiences. At the end of each week, take 15 minutes to write down the most interesting things you learned or observed from any area of life. Then ask yourself 2 questions. What does this remind me of? And where else could this apply? This simple weekly ritual forces synthesis, turning passive experiences into active insights. You'll begin to see patterns in the chaos, repeated principles across different domains. You'll start having more aha moments in the shower or on a walk, because your subconscious mind has been fed a rich diet of diverse dots and is constantly working to link them. You are not just learning more. You are learning to think in a more connected and therefore more intelligent way. Chapter 8. Think in pictures. Words are powerful, but they are sequential and slow. One word follows another in a line. Pictures, however, are simultaneous and immediate. They convey relationships, emotions, and complex structures all at once. This chapter is about unlocking your brain's innate visual spatial intelligence, learning to translate tangled thoughts and abstract problems into simple sketches that make everything clearer. You don't need to be an artist. You just need to be willing to draw boxes, circles, arrows, and stick figures. When you think in pictures, you're engaging a different, often underused, part of your mind that excels at seeing the big picture and the connections within it. Get ready to put your ideas on paper and watch them transform from confusing clouds into clear maps. David was leading a project team that was stuck in endless circular debates. Everyone agreed the goal was important, but they couldn't agree on priorities or the path forward. Frustrated, he went to the whiteboard and said, "Forget talking for a minute. Let's just draw what we think is happening." He drew a big circle for their goal. Then he asked each person to come up and draw one major obstacle as a box and one resource as a star, placing them around the goal. Within 10 minutes, the whiteboard was covered. The magic happened when someone drew a long, winding arrow from a resource on one side of the board, around several obstacles to the goal. "What if we approached it from this angle?" she asked. The room fell silent, then erupted into agreement. The picture had revealed a path words could not. David realized the solution wasn't in more talk, it was in making their thinking visible. The foundational tool for visual thinking is the simple Venn diagram, but we're going to use it in a dynamic way. Don't just use it for set theory. Use it to map out overlaps between ideas, teams, goals, or problems. Draw 2 or 3 overlapping circles on a page. Label each circle with a concept like customer needs, our tech capability, and market trends. Now, visually map out what falls in each unique area and, most importantly, in the overlaps. The overlaps are where innovation and effective solutions live, the sweet spot where needs, capability, and trends meet. This forces you to move beyond either-or thinking and consider the synergistic and. The act of physically drawing the circles and writing in the spaces engages your spatial reasoning and often reveals relationships you hadn't verbally articulated. For more complex processes or systems, we use flowcharts. Start with a single box representing the beginning state or input. Then ask, what happens next? And draw an arrow to the next box. Whenever there's a decision point, yes, no, if then, draw a diamond and branch your arrows. Keep asking and then, until you reach an end state. Mapping out a workflow, a decision tree for a big choice, or even your morning routine as a flowchart does something remarkable. It exposes unnecessary steps, bottlenecks, and loops of wasted effort that are invisible when you just think about it. You're not just describing a process, you're creating a map you can optimize. Seeing it allows you to ask, can we cut this step? Can we merge these two? When dealing with abstract, intangible concepts like values, culture, or personal goals, use a mind map, which we touched on before, but make it deliberately visual. Put your central idea in the middle and draw organic, curving branches for main categories, then smaller twigs for details. Use tiny icons instead of just words, a light bulb for ideas, a heart for values, a dollar sign for financial goals. Use different colors for different types of information. This visual coding helps your brain categorize and retrieve information faster. The non-linear, radiating structure of a mind map mirrors how your brain actually associates ideas, freeing you from the tyranny of the list and allowing for more creative connections to emerge organically on the page. Make this a daily habit. The next time you're confused about a problem, before you write a single sentence, reach for a pen in the back of an envelope. Try to sketch the problem. Is it a barrier? Draw a wall. Is it a lack of direction? Draw a compass with a missing needle. Is it a tangled mess? Draw a knot. Then sketch what a solution might look like. The wall with a door, the compass with a clear north, the knot unraveled. This practice, called solving for pattern, uses visual metaphor to bypass analytical paralysis. By externalizing your thinking, you get it out of your overcrowded head and into a space where you can literally see it, manipulate it, and solve it. You'll find that clarity often arrives not through more thinking, but through the simple act of drawing. Chapter 9. Question everything, especially yourself. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Brilliant thinkers aren't necessarily people with all the answers. They are people who have mastered the art of asking better, more penetrating questions. This chapter is about upgrading your internal and external questioning toolkit, learning to challenge assumptions, especially your own, and to dig beneath the surface of every problem and opportunity. We are going to move from accepting the first answer that comes to mind to cultivating a deep, disciplined curiosity that probes for root causes and hidden possibilities. The right question, asked at the right time, can dismantle a false belief, open a locked door, or illuminate a path you never saw. Your mind is a search engine, and questions are your queries. Let's learn how to craft masterful ones. Alina ran a small bakery that was doing okay but not growing. She kept asking herself, how can I get more customers? The answers were standard: better marketing, a loyalty program, social media ads. She tried them all with modest results. Then a mentor challenged her to question the question itself. What if, the mentor asked, the goal isn't more customers but better customers? What does a better customer look like for you? This new question stopped Alina in her tracks. She realized her better customer was someone who valued high-quality, unique ingredients and would pay a premium for them. This led to a cascade of new questions. What products do those customers want? How do I reach them? What experience would delight them? By changing her core question, she pivoted her entire business to a premium niche, which was less stressful and far more profitable. The breakthrough began not with an answer, but with a better question. We must first learn to spot and challenge our own hidden assumptions. These are beliefs we treat as absolute truths, often without realizing it. They sound like, we've always done it this way, our customers would never pay for that, I'm not the kind of person who could. To surface them, use the ladder of inference exercise. Start with a conclusion you've drawn, e.g., this project will fail. Now ask, what data am I basing this on? Then, what assumptions am I making about that data? Then, what beliefs do I have that lead to those assumptions? Climbing down this ladder often reveals that your conclusion is built on a shaky foundation of untested beliefs. Simply asking, what am I assuming to be true here, can dissolve imaginary barriers and open up new avenues for action. Next, we adopt the tool of Socratic questioning, a method for disciplined, deep thinking. When faced with any claim or idea, ask this sequence. 1. Clarification. What exactly do you mean by that? 2. Probing assumptions. What are you assuming here? 3. Evidence reasoning. What data supports this? Are there other ways to see it? 4. Perspectives. How would our competitor, our customer, my grandmother see this? 5. Consequences. If we accept this, what are the likely outcomes? 6. Question the question. Why is this question important? Is there a better question to ask? Applying this to your own thoughts is like having a personal trainer for your reasoning, forcing you to build stronger, more resilient ideas and avoid sloppy thinking. To generate innovative solutions, we use catalytic questions. These are open-ended, forward-looking questions designed to spark new thinking. They often start with phrases like, "How might we?" "What would it take to?" "In a world where is free, easy, instant, what would we do?" For example, instead of, "How do we fix our slow customer service?" ask, "How might we make our customer service so delightful that people tell their friends about it?" This subtle shift moves you from fixing a negative to creating a positive, which engages your creative brain differently. Keep a list of your favorite catalytic question starters. When you're stuck, pick one and apply it to your problem. You'll be amazed at how the quality of your answers rises to meet the ambition of your question. Finally, institute a regular question-storming session, alone or with a team. Unlike brainstorming for answers, you brainstorm only questions about your challenge. Set a timer for 5 minutes and generate as many questions as you can with no attempt to answer any. Write them all down. The rule is, the more questions, the better. After the storm, review the list. Which questions are most provocative? Which ones make you uncomfortable? Which ones, if answered, would change everything? Often, the most powerful question on the list is one you'd never thought to ask before. By making questioning a deliberate, celebrated practice, you transform your mindset from that of a passive answer finder to an active explorer, constantly uncovering new territory in the landscape of your work and life. Chapter 10. Think opposite. When you're stuck on a problem, moving forward feels impossible. But what if the way forward is actually to go backward, or sideways, or to consider the exact opposite of everything you're currently trying? This is the power of inversion and reverse thinking, a brutally effective hack that cuts through conventional wisdom and reveals hidden solutions. By deliberately considering the opposite of your goal, the opposite of your plan, or the failure case, you uncover risks and opportunities that are invisible when you only look ahead. This chapter will teach you to flip problems on their head, to ask, what if the opposite were true? And to find brilliance in the counterintuitive. It's a mental jujitsu that uses the force of the problem against itself. Look at the case of a popular downtown park that had a persistent litter problem. The city's maintenance team kept asking, how do we get people to stop littering? They tried more trash cans, signs with fines, and public awareness campaigns with little success. A new team member, using reverse thinking, asked the opposite question. How could we design the park so that littering improves the park? It seemed absurd at first, but this question led to a playful idea. What if littering was the point? They installed special, artistic litter walls, where people could press discarded gum into colorful mosaics, and placed bins for bottle caps to be used in a community sculpture. They reframed the problem from stopping a bad behavior to channeling a behavior into art. Litter didn't disappear, but it became part of the park's charm, and people started participating deliberately. The solution came from embracing the opposite of the original intent. The first and most powerful inversion technique is the pre-mortem. Instead of asking, how will this plan succeed? A post-mortem looks back at failure. You ask, how will this plan fail? Imagine it's 1 year from now, and your project or decision has been a total disaster. Now brainstorm all the reasons why it failed. Be specific. We failed because we didn't get buy-in from the finance department, or we failed because our key supplier went out of business. This exercise does two things. It liberates people to voice fears they might otherwise suppress in an optimistic planning session, and it generates an actionable list of risks to mitigate now. By visualizing failure vividly, you can build a plan that is robust against it, dramatically increasing your real chances of success. Another potent tool is to invert your goal. If your goal is to increase customer satisfaction, spend time defining what would decrease customer satisfaction in extreme detail. List every single thing that could annoy, frustrate, or drive away a customer. Often, this list is easier to generate and more concrete than a list of positives. Once you have your anti-goal list, you have a clear checklist of what to eliminate or avoid. Your strategy becomes beautifully simple. Systematically remove or prevent every item on that list. This inversion cuts through vague aspirations and gives you direct, actionable tasks. It's often easier to see what's in your way than to see the perfect path forward, so clear the obstacles, and progress becomes inevitable. We can also apply this to personal habits. Want to become more productive? Instead of listing all the things you should do, make a detailed list of all the things you do that guarantee a wasted, unproductive day. E.g., check phone first thing in the morning, have no to-do list, say yes to every interruption, work in a cluttered space. Your productivity plan is now the inverse. Simply avoid every item on that guarantee failure list. This is often less daunting and more effective than striving for an idealized version of a productivity guru. You are not climbing a mountain. You are clearing the debris from your path so you can walk forward easily. Reverse thinking turns the pursuit of success into the avoidance of known failures, which is a much more reliable strategy. Make thinking opposite a default option in your toolkit. Whenever you face a binary choice, don't just weigh option A versus option B. Force yourself to argue passionately for the option you're leaning against. When everyone agrees on a course of action, appoint someone to be the official devil's advocate to argue the opposite view. When you have a strong belief, actively seek out the smartest people who hold the opposite belief and try to understand their reasoning, not to defeat them, but to see what they see. This discipline builds intellectual humility and flexibility. It ensures your ideas are stress-tested and that you haven't fallen in love with a single direction. By regularly visiting the land of opposite, you ensure you're not a prisoner in the land of your own assumptions. Chapter 11. First Principles Thinking. What does it mean to truly understand something? It means you can break it down to its fundamental, undeniable truths and build it back up from there. This is first principles thinking, the way physicists, groundbreaking engineers, and radical innovators reason. It's the practice of stripping away layers of assumption, convention, and how it's always been done to get to the core elements of a problem. When you reason from first principles, you are not limited by analogy or past examples. You are free to reconstruct reality from the ground up, leading to solutions that are often cheaper, faster, and more elegant. This chapter is your guide to deconstructing the complex and rebuilding the possible. Thinking like a beginner with the mind of a master. Elon Musk famously used this to rethink the cost of rocket parts. The aerospace industry accepted that rockets were insanely expensive. That was just the analogy. Musk asked, "What is a rocket made of?" "Aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, carbon fiber." "What are the market values of these materials?" He calculated the raw materials of a rocket were about 2% of the typical price tag. The enormous cost was in the layered, complex, and inefficient manufacturing and processes of the traditional industry. By identifying this first principle truth, the materials are cheap, he posed a new question. How can we assemble these materials into a rocket in the most efficient way possible? This line of thinking led to SpaceX's vertical integration and reusable rockets, disrupting the entire industry. He didn't accept the analogy, he went to the physics of the problem. To practice this, we start with the Socratic method for things. Facing any problem or concept, ask why repeatedly until you hit bedrock. Why is this done this way? Because it's the standard. Why is it the standard? Because it works. Why does it work? Because of X principle. Keep going until you reach a foundational truth that is self-evident or a basic law of nature, economics, or human behavior. For example, in business, we need to advertise on TV. Why? To reach customers. Why do we need to reach them that way? To build brand awareness. Why is TV the best for that? Is it? What is brand awareness fundamentally? It's a repeated memory pattern in a brain. What's the most effective way to create a repeated memory pattern? This line of questioning might lead you to cheaper, more targeted digital strategies instead of defaulting to an expensive TV ad. The next step is the actual deconstruction. Write down everything you think you know about your subject. Then separate the first principles, fundamental truths, from the received wisdom, assumptions, and commonly held beliefs. For example, in starting a restaurant, a first principle is people need to eat. Received wisdom is you need a prime downtown location. A first principle is food must be safe to consume. Received wisdom is you need a giant, expensive commercial kitchen. By isolating the received wisdom, you can challenge it directly. Do you really need a prime location, or could a ghost kitchen with amazing delivery work? Do you need your own kitchen, or could you use a commissary? Deconstruction frees you from the cost and constraints of inherited assumptions. Now, with your few core first principles on the table, you begin the creative work of reconstruction. How can you meet these fundamental needs in a new, more efficient, or more effective way? This is where innovation happens. You are building from the ground up, like Lego, using only the essential blocks. If a first principle of education is learning requires engagement, and another is feedback accelerates learning, how could you reconstruct a school? Perhaps it looks nothing like a traditional classroom with lectures, but more like a series of challenging projects with constant, AI-driven feedback. This process is liberating because you are no longer optimizing a broken system. You are designing a new one based on what is fundamentally true and necessary. Incorporate this into your weekly thinking. Pick one routine, one belief, or one best practice in your life or work. Perform a first principles analysis on it. Write down what you assume to be true about it. Ask why 5 times. Identify the actual bedrock truths. Then brainstorm one new way to achieve the core outcome based only on those truths. You don't have to act on it immediately. The exercise is to strengthen the mental muscle. Over time, this becomes your default mode of analysis. You'll stop asking, "How are others doing this?" and start asking, "What is actually required to achieve the outcome I want?" This shift turns you from a follower of trends into a creator of new realities, grounded in the simplicity of fundamental truth. Chapter 12. Decision-making on Fast Forward. Every day you make hundreds of decisions, from what to eat for breakfast to which project to prioritize, and this constant choosing can lead to decision fatigue, a state of mental exhaustion that leads to poor choices, procrastination, or simply giving up and letting others decide for you. This chapter is about building a personal decision-making engine, a set of simple, fast filters that help you make good, confident choices without wasting time and energy. We are going to move from agonizing over every option to having clear, personal criteria that let you evaluate choices swiftly and consistently. Your goal is not to make the perfect decision every time, an impossibility, but to make a good enough decision quickly and move forward with conviction. Picture Tom, a manager who took a full week to decide on the color scheme for a new office space, soliciting endless opinions, looking at hundreds of swatches, and paralyzing the project. He was so drained from that decision that when a critical staffing issue arose, he made a snap, bad call that cost his team morale. He realized his decision process was broken. He created a simple rule. For low-stakes decisions like office colors, software under $100, lunch catering, he would use the 3 options rule. He'd gather 3 reasonable options, set a 10-minute timer and pick one. If he couldn't decide, he'd delegate the choice or flip a coin. This freed up his mental energy for the high-stakes decisions that truly mattered, like hearing and strategy. He learned that a fast, good decision is almost always better than a slow, perfect one. Our first filter is the 10-10-10 rule, popularized by author Susie Welch. When facing a choice, ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, 10 years from now? This temporal lens instantly clarifies the stakes. A decision to skip the gym might feel good in 10 minutes, neutral in 10 months, and regrettable in 10 years. A decision to have a difficult conversation with a colleague might feel awful in 10 minutes, better in 10 months as the relationship improves, and wise in 10 years for your professional reputation. This tool connects your immediate emotional reaction to the long-term trajectory of your life, helping you make choices aligned with your future self, not just your present mood. For more complex decisions, we use a weighted decision matrix. Draw a simple grid. List your options across the top. Down the side, list the 4 or 5 most important criteria for this decision, e.g., cost, time, impact on goals, personal joy, learning opportunity. Now assign a weight to each criterion based on its importance to you, e.g., impact on goals might be a 5, cost a 3. Then rate each option on a scale of 1-5 for how well it meets each criterion. Multiply the rating by the weight and add up the scores for each option. The numbers aren't magic, but the process forces you to clarify your values and evaluate options objectively rather than being swayed by a single appealing feature or a fleeting emotion. It turns a messy, emotional quandary into a structured analysis you can complete in 15 minutes. We must also learn to recognize and avoid common decision traps. The sunk cost fallacy makes us continue investing in a failing project because we've already put so much in, even when cutting losses is wiser. The anchoring effect lets the first piece of information we hear, like an initial price, overly influence our judgment. The confirmation bias leads us to seek only information that supports what we already want to do. To combat these, institute a pre-decision pause. Before finalizing any significant choice, especially one where you feel strong emotion or attachment, stop. Ask, if I were just starting fresh today, with what I know now, would I make this choice? This mental reset helps you see the situation free from the traps of past investment or biased information gathering. Finally, embrace the power of satisficing, a blend of satisfy and suffice. Coined by Nobel winner Herbert Simon, it's the strategy of choosing an option that meets your minimum criteria for success, rather than exhaustively searching for the mythical best option. Define your threshold for an acceptable outcome before you look at options. For a new car, it might be under $30,000, good safety rating, good fuel economy. The first car you find that meets all three, buy it. Don't test drive 20 more to find a marginally better one. This strategy is based on the reality that the cost of searching for the perfect choice, in time, stress, and opportunity cost, often outweighs the benefit. By satisficing on good enough choices in most areas of life, you conserve your decision-making energy for the few choices where the best truly matters, and you move forward with your life instead of being stuck in deliberation. Chapter 13. Learn from anyone, anytime. Formal education ends, but learning never should, and the richest classroom is the world itself, filled with teachers in the form of everyone you meet and everything you experience. This chapter is about developing a 24/7 learning mindset, where every interaction, observation, and even failure becomes a potential lesson. We are going to transform you into a learning sponge, able to extract wisdom from conversations with a barista, the design of a traffic system, or the way a rival company markets itself. You don't need more time to learn. You need to see the learning opportunities already embedded in your day. When you believe everyone has something to teach you, the whole world becomes your university, and every moment holds the potential for a small, powerful insight. Consider Anna, a young entrepreneur whose startup was struggling to attract users. She read all the marketing books but felt stuck. One Saturday, she was at a busy farmer's market, observing an elderly man selling honey. He didn't have a flashy sign. He just had small samples on tiny spoons and a simple story about his bees. People would try the honey, hear the story, and almost always buy a jar. Anna connected the dots. Her app was free to try, but she was relying on cold, online ads. She wasn't giving people an immediate taste of its value or a simple human story. On Monday, she redesigned her homepage to offer a one-click, no sign-up required demo and added a short, authentic video about why she built the app. Conversions jumped. Her most valuable marketing lesson didn't come from a guru. It came from a beekeeper at a market. The first skill is active listening for learning. In your next conversation, shift your goal from replying to extracting. Listen for the person's unique framework, their why, the principles behind their stories. Ask open-ended questions like, what was the biggest lesson from that experience? Or how did you figure that out? When someone explains their job, don't just nod. Ask, what's the hardest part that someone outside wouldn't understand? This approach uncovers the tacit knowledge, the unwritten rules and hard-earned wisdom that you can't get from books. Treat every person as an expert in their own life, and you'll gather a stunning array of mental models and problem-solving tactics from janitors, CEOs, artists, and engineers alike. Next, practice reverse engineering excellence. Whenever you encounter something that works brilliantly, a captivating email, an efficient airport layout, a perfectly paced movie, don't just enjoy it, deconstruct it. Ask, what makes this so effective? What's the underlying structure or principle? If this email got my attention, what did the subject line do? How is the information organized? Save examples of excellent design, writing, or systems in a swipe file, a digital folder or notebook. This isn't copying. It's analyzing the architecture of success so you can understand the principles and apply them in your own unique way to your own challenges. You're building a personal library of what works, drawn from the best the world has to offer. Embrace learning from negative teachers. This means paying close attention to bad experiences, frustrations, and mistakes, your own and others, and mining them for lessons. A terrible customer service call is a masterclass in what not to do. A project that failed due to poor communication teaches you the vital importance of clear updates. Keep a lessons learned log. Each week, jot down one thing that went wrong and the specific, actionable lesson it provided. This reframes failure from something to avoid into a necessary tuition fee for your education. It also makes you more observant and analytical in the moment, because you know even a negative outcome will yield valuable data for your growth. Weave this into the fabric of your day with the daily debrief. Each evening, spend 5 minutes with a notebook. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What did I learn today? This could be a fact, an insight about a person, an observation about a process. 2. Who taught it to me? A person, a situation, a mistake. 3. How can I use this tomorrow? This ritual does 2 powerful things. It forces you to actively look for lessons throughout your day, and it turns passive experiences into active, retained knowledge. Over time, you'll start your day looking for teachers, and you'll end your day richer for having found them. You'll realize you are swimming in a sea of wisdom, and all you had to do was learn how to take a drink. Chapter 14. Build your idea machine. Great ideas often feel like lightning strikes, rare, unpredictable, and magical. But what if you could build a machine in your mind that generates reliable, useful creative sparks on demand? This chapter is about engineering your personal creativity engine, using daily routines and specific techniques to move from waiting for inspiration to actively producing it. Creativity is not a mysterious talent. It's a process of combining existing elements in novel ways, and that process can be systematized. We are going to design habits that feed your brain interesting raw material and create conditions where new connections can form. Get ready to transition from being an idea consumer to an idea producer, someone known for bringing fresh solutions to the table. Leo, a mid-level marketing manager, felt his ideas were stale, always a slight variation of what the competition was doing. His boss asked for a big idea for the next quarter, and he drew a blank for days. Then he remembered the concept of combinational play from a book. He wrote down 10 random objects from his desk, a stapler, a plant, a stress ball, a mug, etc., and 10 attributes of his product. He then forced himself to combine them. What if our product was as reliable as a stapler? Boring. What if our marketing campaign grew like a plant? This seemed more interesting. He explored it. Plants grow from seeds with water and sun. Could they give customers a seed, a small product sample, and provide sun and water, great content and support to help it grow into loyalty? This quirky metaphor became the core of a highly successful campaign. The idea came from a system, not a stroke of genius. The engine needs constant fuel, so we establish a creative diet. Just as your body needs good food, your idea machine needs a steady intake of diverse, high-quality stimuli. This means deliberately consuming art, science, nature, and culture outside your field. Commit to one article from a scientific journal like New Scientist per week, one visit to an art gallery, online or in person per month, one long walk in nature with no headphones per week, and one conversation with someone in a completely different industry per month. This isn't leisure. It's essential R&D for your mind. You are collecting strange and beautiful components that your brain will later, unexpectedly, assemble into a new idea. Schedule this input like you schedule important meetings. The core process is idea sprints. Set aside 30 minutes twice a week for pure, unjudged idea generation on a single prompt. The prompt can be related to work, 10 new ways to onboard a customer, or life, 10 ways to make my home more relaxing. Set a timer for 10 minutes and brainstorm as many ideas as possible with one rule: no judging allowed. Every idea is welcome, no matter how absurd. The goal is quantity, not quality. In the next 10 minutes, combine and improve ideas. Can you merge two silly ones into something practical? In the final 10 minutes, pick the two most promising ideas and develop them one step further. This regular practice trains your brain to switch into creative mode on command and teaches you that bad ideas are often the stepping stones to good ones. We must also create the physical and mental space for ideas to appear. This means scheduling white space, blocks of time with no agenda, no screens, and no specific task. This could be 20 minutes of sitting with a notebook, a long shower, or a walk without a podcast. In these moments of quiet, your brain's default mode network activates. This is the same network that lights up during daydreaming and is responsible for making distant connections and insights. It's when the machine in the background sorts through the fuel you've given it and makes novel links. If you fill every second with input, you never allow this essential synthesis to happen. Protect your white space fiercely. It's not doing nothing, it's where your best ideas are assembled. Finally, build an idea capture and incubation system. Always carry a small notebook or use a notes app to jot down every fragment of an idea, interesting quote, or observation immediately. This gets it out of your head and into a trusted system. Then once a week, review these idea fragments. Don't try to force them into something yet, just read them. Often, you'll see a connection between two fragments from different days. Place related fragments together in a digital folder or on a physical board. Let them incubate. Your subconscious will work on them. When you need an idea, return to these fragments and your combined lists from your idea sprints. You are no longer starting from a blank page. You are starting from a rich garden of half-formed thoughts that you can now cultivate into full-grown solutions. You have built a reliable machine, and it's always on. Chapter 15. The Anti-Procrastination Code. Procrastination isn't about laziness. It's about emotion management. We delay tasks that make us feel anxious, bored, incompetent, or overwhelmed, seeking the temporary relief of distraction. This chapter cracks the code on procrastination by addressing the emotional roots and providing simple, tactical workarounds that make starting easier than avoiding. We are going to move from a cycle of guilt, pressure, and rushed work to a system of gentle, consistent momentum. You'll learn to hack your motivation, trick your brain into beginning, and build unstoppable forward progress through tiny, non-threatening steps. The goal is not to never feel like procrastinating, but to have a set of tools to move forward anyway, reclaiming your time and your peace of mind. Meet Jay, a writer with a book deadline. The blank document was a terrifying wall. He'd clean his entire apartment, scroll social media for hours, and do anything but write, all while a knot of anxiety grew in his stomach. Finally, he told himself, I don't have to write the book. I just have to open the document and write one terrible sentence. That felt easy. He opened it. He wrote one truly awful sentence. The man saw a thing. He laughed at how bad it was. Then, since the document was open, he thought, well, what did the man see? He wrote another sentence, then another. An hour later, he had 500 words. He had broken the spell. The barrier wasn't writing, it was starting to write. He used this just one sentence rule every day, and the book got finished without the usual last-minute panic. The code was to make the first step absurdly small. The master key is the 5-minute takeoff. When you feel resistance to a task, don't commit to doing it all. Just commit to working on it for 5 minutes. Set a timer. Anyone can do anything for 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, your only job is to work, not to be good, not to be perfect, just to be in motion. Almost always, a magical thing happens. The initial resistance melts away once you're engaged, and you'll want to continue after the timer beeps. You've overcome static friction, the hardest part. If after 5 minutes you still desperately want to stop, give yourself permission to stop guilt-free. But you must do another 5 minutes later. This technique works because it respects your emotional resistance while proving to you that the task is never as bad as your anxiety makes it seem. We must also eat the frog, but with a twist. The saying means to do your hardest task first thing in the day. Our twist is to define the frog not as the whole hard project, but as the single hardest next action on that project. The frog isn't write the report, it's open the file and outline the 3 main sections. The frog isn't do my taxes, it's gather all my W-2s and receipts in one folder. By defining the frog as a tiny, concrete, doable action, you make it possible to eat it quickly. Do this one thing first in your workday, before checking email or social media. The psychological victory of having your frog eaten by 9 a.m. sets a triumphant tone for the entire day and prevents the dread from looming over you. To manage larger projects, we use the next action method. When you finish a work session, never end at a stopping point like done with Chapter 3. Instead, always write down the very next physical action you need to take to move forward. For example, open document Chapter 4, write the heading Research Phase and bullet 3 subpoints. This note is a gift to your future self. When you return to the project, you don't face the ambiguous, scary void of work on Chapter 4. You have a clear, specific instruction that requires no decision-making. Just do this one tiny thing. This eliminates the paralysis of choice and makes restarting frictionless. Your to-do list becomes a list of next actions, not vague goals, turning a mountain back into a series of small, climbable steps. Build momentum with the chain method. Get a calendar, physical or digital, and for each day you complete your most important task, your frog, or a 5-minute session on your big project, mark a big, satisfying X over that day. Your goal is simple: don't break the chain. The visual chain of X's becomes a powerful motivator. You won't want to see a gap in your chain. This leverages our desire for consistency and turns daily progress into a game. Finally, schedule procrastination periods deliberately. Trying to eliminate distraction completely is futile. Instead, schedule 15-minute blocks where you are allowed to procrastinate guilt-free, scroll, watch videos, whatever. When the urge hits outside that time, tell yourself, I can do that during my procrastination period at 3 p.m. This often diminishes the urge immediately because the forbidden fruit is no longer forbidden, just delayed. You are in control. You have the code. Now go break the chain of delay and build your chain of achievement. Conclusion: your smarter future starts now. You've just equipped yourself with a complete toolkit for smarter thinking, a set of mental levers and hacks that can transform how you learn, solve problems, and create. But tools in a box don't build a house. They must be picked up and used. This isn't the end of a journey. It's the first day of a new way of being. The most important hack of all is the understanding that intelligence is a verb, an action you choose to take every time you ask a better question, sketch a problem, or focus for 25 minutes. Your brain is no longer a fixed entity you must accept. It is a dynamic, adaptable partner waiting for your direction. The world is full of noise and complexity, but you now have the filters and the focus to find the signal and make sense of it. You are not just ready for the future, you are equipped to build it, one smart thought at a time. So what's your very first move? Don't try to implement all 15 chapters at once. That's a recipe for overwhelm. Start with one. Flip back through the book and pick the one hack that excites you the most or addresses your biggest current frustration. Is it tamming distractions with the focus switch? Is it learning faster with the 80-20 rule? Is it finally remembering names with your memory palace? Commit to practicing that single hack for the next 2 weeks. Use the playbook in the back to track your progress. Once it starts to feel like a natural part of your thinking, add another. This is how you build your new mental operating system, gradually, consistently, and with compassion for yourself when you slip. You have everything you need. Your smarter future is not a distant dream. It's the very next thought you choose to have. Let's begin.